Hi, my name is Susan McGibbon. Thank you for tuning in again to watch Veteran Serving Veteran. Tonight we have Clay Larson with us from Groundwork Lawrence, but before we get started tonight, I'd like to take a few minutes to do some housekeeping issues from NEVLH. The first I'd like to talk about is the City of Lawrence has begun recognizing veterans coming back from combat. And one of the things they're doing is they're putting a little sign out by the side of the road with their name and their return date. And what the city is doing is they're recognizing them with a flag that's been flown over City Hall. And they've asked for our help to try to get the names of veterans coming back. So if you know of someone, a neighbor or a family member that's coming back from combat, please let either Mark LaPlante, Councilor Mark LaPlante know, or Jamie Melendez, the Lawrence Veteran Service Officer, or you could let us know at NEVLH and we'll certainly pass the information along. But it's real important to get our guys into City Hall and have them recognized. The second thing is that I want to thank the volunteers from NEVLH and around the city of Lawrence and Methuen as well for volunteering for Beautification Day. NEVLH turned out in force, and it was supposed to be a very cold, rainy, awful day, and nobody stayed home. Everybody came out, and we enjoyed a very beautiful day of replacing the flag. So thank you to all of you. And the last thing is that NEVLH is growing really rapidly, and we're reaching a place now where we just can't do it alone anymore. We've more than doubled the amount of veterans we served last year, and our pantry has gone to 2 days a week. We've got an RN in there. We've got some really big plans for the summertime, but we really can't do it alone anymore, so we've got to step things out. So we're putting the call out for a grant writer. We'd certainly like to have a veteran help us out, but if that's not possible, we'll take anybody we can get. So in order to make sure that the mission continues, we need a grant writer. So thank you for any help you can get, and remember to call in with the names of those veterans returning home. But again, I would like to welcome Clay Larson.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Well, it's lovely to have you. Clay and JT were in contact one day about some programs that are happening, some new initiatives at Groundwork Lawrence. But I think to start, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what Groundwork Lawrence is.
Well, I've been working with Groundwork Lawrence for a couple years now. Groundwork Lawrence has been here for, I believe, since the since 2006 or so, working with the city. And one thing Lawrence does is it's really good at creating partnerships. That's our main skill. Is we've worked with a number of community groups that are really interested in improving the city. Sure. I believe it's the North Canal Coalition is one, and
Correct.
And obviously the mayor's office they've been partnering with very well. And we primarily an environmental and an education firm, and we nonprofit, and we do a lot with both educating students, in elementary schools and high schools, but we also work with the city too on open space planning. So a big part of our programming is to help restore the environmental health of the city, and one of our premier projects is the restoration of the Spigot River.
Sure.
And eventually the Merrimack River waterfront.
Sure. Now, just to go back a little bit, you said that you do some work with elementary and high school. It's not just focused on those two groups. It's anyone can get involved.
Well, we have an education department that has teachers that teach environmental science in the public school system. And that's a big part of our work. And then we have programs like our community garden program and our Earth Day cleanup program. So these are all like specific grant-driven projects that we work on. But we also work with a huge, really amazing group of volunteers.
Sure.
So that's one way to get involved, is volunteering for one of our cleanups. Like we just did a big Earth Day cleanup. I think we had 2,000 people out at that. And then there's a lot of volunteers, help work in the office, and so are a lot of opportunities.
All right. Now, is one of the partnerships maybe that would be helpful, for, say we had some veterans who wanted to do some volunteering. Is there usually like a calendar they can sign up on, or is it just program by program? How does that work?
We have ongoing projects, and we believe me, like if you know around your own home, let alone your personal home requires a lot of work. So you can imagine a city requires a lot of work. So we have kind of a whole collection of projects we're trying to develop. And if we had a veterans group come together that wanted to do something, we could probably organize a day to work on certain activities.
So when someone, say, from a little nonprofit has a funding opportunity for some kind of, whether it's say a horticulture program. I know that I used to work with some folks who used to greatly benefit from being outside. And all right, is that something that you could either help them on, help them through, partner with them to do? I know that
to develop a horticulture program?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we do a lot of teaching around gardening and urban gardening and so on. And well, it's we have a great development department that could can look into writing grants and developing partnerships. A lot of that is sort of getting to know us and finding out, and us getting to know the organization and finding out what the skills are and coming up with a real project. But we really like sitting down and brainstorming.
Now, you talked a little bit about the Spicket River. What's going on with that? At what stage are we at now?
Well, my colleague Brad Busher, who's the landscape architecture project manager for that, has been developing a series of pocket parks that start up at Manchester Street in North Lawrence, right near the Methuen border, right near the Polytech factory.
Sure. And
they've been developing a footpath that runs along the river, the whole length, all the way down to past Central Catholic, Immigrant Park. I can't remember all the names, but it ends up at the mouth of the it ends up at the Merrimack River.
Really?
And the thing that's really neat about it is it's almost like the Liberty Trail in Boston, where you can follow along and then you can sort of explore the river. And what that does is it helps people really realize that the river is an amazing asset, and that actually want to start protecting the river. So though majority of those parks are done, I think this summer we're actually completing a few.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And we've been fortunate, fortunate is the wrong word, we've worked really hard, and we've been awarded a significant grant to redevelop something called the Facella Lot, which is at the mouth of between the Spicket and the Merrimack River, to build a very large park there. And so I think people will start seeing work on that happen next summer.
Now, how, again, can people get involved in that? I'm just thinking of the bike paths and the trails that I walk on, or will always gravitate toward when I go to a new city. Are people taking ownership for keeping this clean?
We are trying to get people, we're working to get people involved in cleanups. We have had the Earth Day cleanup in the spring, and next in the fall we usually have the Spicket River cleanup, which is a huge event. But if there is like a neighborhood association or group of vets or just a community group that really wants to get involved and actually do some interesting work and not just maybe pick up trash, we would love to work with you and coordinate a project.
Okay, so I think that's one of the things that I'm hearing. What NEVLH does is we try to find those pockets of veterans in need, or to find places like Groundwork Lawrence or agencies that are going to have vets coming through their doors, and to try to really create a safety net before it's needed, so that if someone comes in and they need job training, or they have a special energy need around their neighborhood, I can at least say, well, you know what, I don't have an answer, maybe Clay will, and we can refer it that way. So I would say that if anybody has that sort of neighborhood coalition in place now, certainly if they boarded this walkway, would they get in touch with you? Would they, what would they do?
Rosa Pena is our outreach coordinator. She the contact.
Everyone knows Rosa and Lawrence.
Right, she is. I've been really enjoying working with her. She knows everybody. Or myself, my job is more focused on this training program. And over time, I'm going to be more involved in that kind of stewardship outreach also. One thing that we do in Lawrence that's I think might fall into that category is we actually help people with subsistence farming almost. We do build a lot of community gardens. And so there's opportunities for people who, literally can grow their own food in some
Right.
cases, there's that much hunger in this town
Yeah.
where there's not a lot of the other options. They're actually taking some city
Yeah.
abandoned lots and turning them over and making them so people can grow food in them. One challenge with that is that some of the soil is actually not safe to grow in.
Right.
So you really have to take a hard look at the
Yeah.
environmental concerns. But
Yeah.
that's something we're particularly good in, is redeveloping, working in partnership with the city and community groups to redevelop abandoned lots and try to give them better uses.
Yeah, my brain's already ticking. I mean, as I mentioned before, we have a food pantry, and we're very fortunate to have allotment of food every month with the Merrimack Valley Food Bank, and we've just started to get something called Food Rescue. But I know that our pantry numbers are climbing quickly, and about half the people who access our pantry each month are over 65, and many of them are over 75, and there are 4 or 5 or 6 that are over 90. So I think that would harken back to very early days in Lawrence when there was a garden in the backyard. So I think that's something we'll probably be asking to, for a little bit more information on.
Yeah, people used to be, everybody used to have a garden.
Sure.
We were an agricultural country,
Yeah.
and so food is more available and healthy food. And,
Sure.
and that's one thing we really try to promote is, like we have the farmers market in the summertime in front of City
Exactly.
Hall, and how
Yeah.
can we get healthy food into the community, and how can we
Absolutely.
how can we fight food scarcity?
So tell me a little bit now, before we run out of time, about the environmental technical training program.
What's
First of all, tell us what it is and what the goal is for it.
Well, it's an intensive 5-week training program. It's 40 hours a week for 5 weeks. But so it's a significant commitment. It's also free, and it is geared towards unemployed or underemployed people. You also don't have to have a background in the field necessarily, even though we like to bring people along who are already in the asbestos field.
Sure.
It's called the Environmental Technical Training Program, or ETTP, and it's to get people into the environmental remediation industry. There's a lot of
Hey, stop right there. Remediation.
Yep.
Tell us what it is.
Yep. That's a sort of the engineering term for cleaning up dirty construction sites. For better or worse, industry. We've used some things for industry that were bad. We put a lot of asbestos in buildings because we thought at one time it was fireproof, which it is. But and also lead paint, really strong stuff. But now we realize it's really bad for the kids. And then there's also things like diesel fuel or different kinds of chemicals that get in the ground. So the program sort of trains you so that you have the skills not only to work in the lead and asbestos, which is almost like a cottage industry in Lawrence, I'm learning, but it also helps you to learn how to sort of ramp up, and you could move into something called become an environmental technician, where you do soil testing. So it's actually a profession, and we're trying to sort of professionalize the lead and asbestos industry so that people know how to. We don't have uneducated contractors going in creating serious problems by spreading this stuff around people's basements. It's sort of level of professionalism. And it's also really good jobs. So potentially entry level is $12 to $15 an hour, but there are prevailing wage jobs that can be significantly higher than that.
So one of the things you said was underemployed. So I've got a job and I'm working in an office in a store, and I want to make the switch. I don't have to put any money down. I can contact Groundwork Lawrence. And at the end of the 5 weeks, I'm going to at least be qualified for an entry-level job. Does that sound right?
Yep, and some of the easy, accessible entry-level jobs are literally doing demolition. So it's hard construction work, but a lot of young men and women really want to do that, and get out of the get out of whatever the store they're working in.
Yeah. Now, how did this develop? What was the call? Was it developed here in Lawrence? Is it something from the other groundwork?
Right, and that it's actually an EPA. It's a federally funded program.
Okay.
It's the EPA Workforce Development Grant. It funds it, and Groundwork has been partnering with the Merrimack Valley Workforce Investment Board to develop the program, and they looked into the community, and then they just did studies. They asked employers where were the jobs, and so this came out of that research. So this is actually our second time we've done this program. over the last 2 years. So we're hoping we can, every couple of years, bring this program back to Lawrence.
All right, that was one of my questions. Is that you're hoping that it's renewable funds? Will the program change when the funds are renewed, or you just won't know that until?
I think we have a really good program now. The 5 weeks, it's a nice intensive program, and we've done 3 training cycles. We're actually, one happened over the winter. We're in the middle of one now. We have one last training cycle that's going to happen starting in July 7th and go into August. We're pretty successful with this program, but we really want to look at the market and we ask our advisors, ask the community what is needed, and go forth from there.
Now, you mentioned partners before. Who does the teaching? Where is it held? I mean, what are the partners you bring into this, like, immediately? I would think you'd have to work with job developers afterwards, maybe Valley Works, whatever, but what's right up front?
Well, we do partner with Valley Works, and they do a lot of, we actually do some testing with them, and they help us with the job placement.
Sure.
We have a great group of instructors. We have, I actually do some of the teaching in the beginning,
Sure.
but the first week we have some civil engineers and some environmental scientists talk about sort of the big picture. We even have some representatives from the government, the Brownsfield program. So the first week is like an overview of the environmental business, and we have sort of a rotating roster of instructors that come through. And then you get into the nuts and bolts of the lead and asbestos and the OSHA certification. And so we, right now we're working with a training company called EMGC that has great trainers doing a really strong job. Going forward, we have to, it's a public bid process, so we may have other trainers in, but we try to hire really qualified trainers who really know the environmental certification business.
Sure. Well, I know that one of the things, the first day that you would cross paths with JT, he came back and was very excited because this is, you're singing to the choir with him. And
I felt very lucky to meet him that day. We had a lot of fun work. We were raking leaves and doing a cleanup at one of the schools here.
Yeah,
in
and he's like a Pied Piper, but I think when you spend time with him, you get to see that not only is he passionate about what he does and doing a good job, he obviously wants to employ veterans in that, but I think it's the greater good. It's making his community safe. And so when you say you bring in the very best of the best, I think that that's critical, for everyone's ultimate success. Do you have, I know that the instructors, have to go within their capability. Is it Spanish and English? What's the program materials?
Because it's a federal program, we are required to teach it in English. We wish we could. We had a huge call from the Spanish community to say,
sure,
give us this training in Spanish, and I understand that.
Sure.
But each grant has its own requirements. So
absolutely,
the training is in English and all the instruction. But we also really, our goal is to bring people from all walks of life through. We've had a lot of really young guys who have worked in Dunkin' Donuts or Pizza Huts, who are just tired of working indoors and have a lot of energy. And then we also had a few. In the last cycle we had 3 women come through the program who were just very interested and curious, and we've had a few people with engineering background degrees who are unemployed. That who, if they get this in their, it's a feather in their cap to move on. So that's one reason I really like it. It's an incredibly diverse group. And it's geared towards people in Lawrence, but we have a few people from Methuen and Haverhill coming through also. But
it's mainly Lawrence residents.
That's our target audience, yeah. But
now, how many? What's a group? What's a class?
The goal is between 15 and 20.
Okay, and you mentioned Valley Works. What is the process to try to hook these folks up with a job afterwards?
Well, we have an advisory board of local environmental companies that we're working with. So when we have a really strong candidates, we call them and we try to work with the students and understand their capabilities. Part of it is we actually help write a resume, or at least tweak an existing resume to make it more. We all know that you might be applying for different types of jobs. You want to make your resume suit the job you're applying for. So we help them insert their certifications, maybe reorganize it so it puts them in a good light.
Well, I think that's one of the ways, with community partners. Certainly, there are many agencies around Lawrence who can, help with resume writing. But that, again, to bring in the veteran end of it, that's one of the things that we will certainly do now. But, hopefully when we have a facility that's a little bit bigger, this is two of the exact things that we want to be able to provide. From JT's end and your end, we want to be able to do job training there in the building on site, and we absolutely want to be able to have space to have folks come in the door as they do now, and we do it most informally. But when they come in now and say, okay, I need to find a place to live. Okay, now I've got some food, and I know the places where I can either go and get food or where I can go for free health care. What do I do now about my career to sustain all of this?
Right, and then do I have this? What's my next track? Can I ramp up into a career? And
so it's
a
nice
little more
that you
aggressive.
can handle, hold those hands. But another question I thought of that we've faced in other training programs. For instance, life happens. It's a mom. Life happens. She needs to drop out of that course. Is she going to be able to enroll again? Is she going to be able to come in again and pick up where she left off? What would happen in that instance?
It's this course. It's a little bit of a tough course, and we have to be pretty strict about if people. And we really say that up front. I mean, you need to be there from 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night, and some of the trainings are actually 40 hours, and if you miss a couple hours within that, you get disqualified. So we try to gear it as a pretty rigorous course, and that's one reason we think vets would be great, because we know that a lot of them have been to the Army. They're used to sort of boot camp, and so we try to be human in that we realize some people just get into situations, and once in a while, if someone has a really good track record in the class and they miss one day, we'll work with them, and we have a benefit in that we do the training 3 times, so that there's a chance that they can take another chance to return. But again, we try to keep it rigorous yet fun. I mean, the atmosphere is supportive. That's my job, is to kind of bring people into the program that seem like they'll actually work together. And so far, we've created the guys are having a blast. I mean, they're working hard, but they're teasing each other and creating a support network within the class.
That's critical.
And one of actually the grant requirements is that going forward after the graduation, we're supposed to get the group together probably for coffee in the evening or something like that, and act as a networking group. So I think that's it's kind of to your point. Like we're not throwing them out when they're done onto their own. Our goal is to bring them along and keep feeding them jobs and have them get together and talk about the different experiences. Like it's a complicated field, and maintaining your licenses and knowing other certifications you can get. So there's a lot of peer support.
So I think that was the other thing, because I know going through that process oftentimes in the office, this doesn't prohibit you getting an entry-level job. Are there other simultaneous licenses you can get so that you're a master of many? Well,
this certificate, the training offers 9 certifications. You get the OSHA 10, fall protection, confined space. You get the lead and asbestos worker. You also get something called OSHA 40, which is hazardous response training. So that's a good rack of certifications there. But you can also add to that, I'm a licensed construction supervisor. Like if you had a construction supervisor's license, that's great. There's another license called the RRP, which is for residential lead abatement. So so this gives you a really good foundation that you could grab a couple more, like commercial driver's license. A lot of folks coming out of the veterans have worked with heavy equipment or have their commercial driver's license, so they're this step away. They have all the training. All they have to do is sit down for the license. So
funny, I have somebody in mind. I have someone in mind. So I think we don't have a whole lot of time left. So I think one of the things that maybe we should say is talk a little bit about the contact information. Just one last question from me is that the immediate need in Lawrence, with the redevelopment that's going on, with all of the planning, for future. Right now, if someone were to do this course, is this a job they'd retire from?
I think potentially, if you have the drive to, I think you can start off entry level doing demolition and stuff
Sure.
like that. But if you have the initiative to, take night classes and maybe study, maybe associate's degree or a couple more courses,
Sure.
and get a little more chemistry behind you, you can become an inspector, and you could end up working for an environmental engineering firm. It's one of those rare fields where you can actually get into it, without having to have a college degree. That's one reason I find it exciting is it's like it's an open door if you're willing to do the
Your
hard
life
work.
can change in
Yeah.
5 weeks. So,
Yep.
Clay, give us a little bit of contact information, and we'll certainly, start looking at our rosters to send
Well,
you some veterans
I think
interested.
this is on a cable, so I think the easiest thing to do is to get on your computer and to go to Groundwork Lawrence, www.groundworklawrence.org/workforce. And then we have a website there that shows the program.
Sure.
And then my contact information is on there. And you can call me, Clay Larson, at 978-974-0770, extension 7017. But I would recommend Google the website, go to workforce training. There's some interesting links about environmental remediation and this whole field. So you can kind of start there, and then you won't have to remember my phone number.
That's really
I'm terrible with writing
exciting.
stuff down.
Oh, well,
I'd rather
yeah.
just Google it.
I am not, but that's really,
Yeah.
really exciting. I know that it's a field that has served many people well, and I think in a city that's making a return to greatness, it will be most welcome. And glad that we can have folks from the city in those classes. But again, I would just finish up with saying thank you to the folks who helped us with replacing those flags on the veterans' graves. That was great. And again, if you know a guy or a gal who's returning from combat, please get those names to either Councilman Mark LaPlante or the Lawrence Veteran Service Officer. My name is Susan McGivern, and I want to thank you so much for joining us for Veterans Serving Veterans.